もったいない. Many Japanese people may have heard this word many times. A dictionary says, もったいない means awe-inspiring, much appreciated, or express thanks, and regularly used meaning such as regret at the full value of something not being to good use. The word もったいない suddenly became popular worldwide in 2005. While massive consumption society pursues richness by replacing and purchasing goods to new ones rather than repairing them when they were broken or became old, the sense of value and meaning that もったいない has is crucial. So then this word came into the global spotlight. It was Dr. Marsal, the first inductee who gave people an opportunity to recognize this word. In February 2005, when she visited Kyoto to attend the event commemorating the implementation of the Kyoto Protocol, she was impressed by the Japanese word もったいない. She later spread this word as an environmental keyword globally. Various activities have greatly contributed to the promotion of coexistence with the environment and the implementation of environmental preservation activities. Actual weather is often different from weather forecasts a week ago. Because weather changes frequently and we cannot foresee a long-term future. Then, is it possible to predict the next 100 years or far future? While meteorological phenomenon is difficult to forecast due to irregular variation, stable data regarding climate can be achieved by monitoring it for long term in an average manner, so the daily variations can be leveled off. A system to predict such climate is called climate modeling. By the size of the Earth, its rotation, energy from the sun, land and sea distribution, atmospheric components, and other basic data made it possible to foresee the long-term climate such as next 100 years. It was Dr. Manabe, the first inductee, who established a prototype of this climate forecast model. His achievements have greatly impacted the world as a whole, such as IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and others are working for an anti-carbon society by forecasting climate. The Manabe's achievement has made a great impact. In Afghanistan, malnutrition and intestinal infection surged in Afghanistan due to huge drought. But the medical service alone is not enough to save people's life. There was a doctor who thought stable water supply, restoration of agriculture for people to live autonomously, sustainably are important, and made utmost effort for irrigation. He set aside his stethoscope, took a lead in heavy machine operation, built dike on a torrential river, and water channels for irrigation, and then changed desert to a lush greenery farmlands. As of 2017, 650,000 refugees are said to have been returned to farmers. These are activities of Tetsu Nakamura, the 8th inductee. He thought that droughts in Afghanistan have contributed to global warming, war, civil war, and land depredation, and leading to a huge number of refugees, and society into a further confusion. To cut such a vicious cycle, he bet his life and stood far from the area deeply impacted by climate change. and made efforts for restoration of lush green farmlands.
Human and nature, where
we are going. This is a word on the final page of his slide. This is a word on the final page of his slide at the commemorative lecture of Kyoto, Earth Hall of Fame. He left us a message that do not aim to develop the economy in a mindless way, to build a sustainable relationship with nature and people is important. Kyoto Earth Hall of Fame will send our efforts and spirits from Kyoto to the world by awarding such people who have greatly contributed to the future of beautiful Earth environment by conserving the Earth and making utmost effort to coexist with people and nature.
Thank you very much for your participating in the Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto Commendation Ceremony today. This year's Commendation Ceremony and the International Symposium of the Earth Forum Kyoto can be viewed online. So audiences in the hall and those who are watching the event online, please enjoy to the end of the program. I am the Master of Ceremony for today, Emi Iwasaki. I ask for your kind cooperation to the end of the program. Now, I invite the host to the stage. And today we have Miss Marimo Mori and Miss Nozomi Tanaka, Queens of Miss Kimono Kyoto 2020, to help us carry out condemnation ceremony. Before the commendation ceremony, I would like to introduce you the host on the stage. From the center to the stage, Chairperson, Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto Management Council, Director General of Research Institute for Humanity and Nature, Juichi Yamagiwa. Governor of Kyoto Prefecture, Takatoshi Nishiwaki. Mayor of Kyoto City, Daisaku Kadokawa. Director General, Kinki Regional Environment Office, Ministry of the Environment of Japan, Tetsuro Tsekire. Now, let me introduce you the host seated in the arena. Kyoto Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Chair of the Special Committee on Environment and Energy, Hideaki Obata. Director of International Institute of Advanced Studies, Hiroshi Matsumoto. President of Kyoto International Conference Center, Shunichi Uchida. Chairman of the Earth Forum Kyoto, President of Kyoto University, Nagahiro Minato. President of Kyoto Prefecture University, Yasuhiro Tsukamoto. Deputy Director General of International Research Center for Japanese Studies, Kazuhiro Takei. We also have many distinguished guests, including members from Kyoto Prefecture Parliament and Kyoto City Assembly. The Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto honors the achievements of those who have made outstanding contributions to the conservation of the global environment, and to share these achievements with future generations through exhibition displayed at Kyoto International Conference Center, where the Kyoto Protocol was signed. The purpose of this project is to publicize this philosophy to the world. And so far, we have inducted 25 people and 1 organization into the Hall of Fame. This year's award, the 12th of its kind, was presented to Dr. Haruki Tsuchiya, who served as an advisor to the research team for global warming countermeasures of the National Institute for Environmental Studies, and has worked with WWF Japan to create the 2050 energy scenario for decarbonized society to promote renewable energy in Japan. President of Kyoto Eco-Energy Academy and Director of System Technology Research Institute Company, Dr. Tsuchiya. And Mr. Manuel Prugo Vidal, the President of COP20 in Lima, he endeavored to promote the participation of non-state actors in international negotiations and laid the foundation for activities by non-state actors, which are generating great momentum in measures against climate change. Mr. Vidal, WWF climate and energy leader and a former Peruvian Minister of Environment. And next is Ms. Christine Tompkins. Ms. Tompkins is a long-time environmentalist who has been instrumental in the conservation of the natural environment in Chile and Argentina, including the creation of new national parks. In her current role as chairman of the Tompkins Conservation, she is working to rewild the endangered and locally extinct indigenous species in Chile and Argentina. She has overseen the creation of parks and marine reserves and numerous projects to combat the extinction of crisis. Former Patagonia CEO, Mrs. Christine Tompkins. These 3 are newly inducted into Hall of Fame. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Haruki Tsuchiya, the new inductee this year, to the stage. Host on the stage, please rise. Those in the arena, please be seated and welcome Mr. Tsuchiya with big hands. This is Dr. Haruki Tsuchiya. Now please be seated. And we are very sorry to announce this, but Mr. Mariel Prugal-Vidal and Ms. Christine Tompkins are not with us today for the prevention of spread of COVID-19. And they are with us through their video messages. Now, on behalf of the hosts, Chair of the Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto Management Council, Juichi Yamagiwa delivers his address. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the many people who have gathered here today for the 12th Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto Commendation ceremony. As you all know, in 1997, here at the Kyoto International Conference Center, the third conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was held, and Kyoto Protocol was adopted, committing the nations of the world to work together to combat climate change, transcending conflicting interests. In the name of Kyoto, the birthplace of the Kyoto Protocol, the Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto was established in 2010 to honor the achievements of those who have made overwhelming contributions to the prevention of the global environment and to pass them on to the future generations by the Kyoto Prefecture Government, Kyoto City Government, Kyoto Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Environment, International Institute of Advanced Studies, Kyoto International Conference Center, the Institute for Global Environmental Studies of the National Institute for the Humanities. And we have inducted many people to the Hall of Fame so far. And in October this year, the first inductee, Dr. Shukuro Manabe, became the first person in the field of climate research to be awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his development of a comprehensive model of the global climate that integrates the general circulation of the atmosphere and oceans, and for his great contribution as a pioneer in predicting global warming. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate him. This year, we are pleased to announce that 3 people will be inducted into the Hall of Fame for the 12th time. Dr. Haruki Tsuchiya served as an advisor to the global warming research team of the National Institute for Environmental Studies and contributed to the promotion of renewable energy in Japan by preparing the 2050 energy scenario for a decarbonized society with WWF Japan. Mr. Mariel Prugal-Vidal, as president of COP20, encouraged the participation of non-state actors in international negotiations and contributed to the progress of subsequent international negotiations on environmental conservation. And Ms. Chris Tompkins, a long-term conservationist, has contributed to the preservation of the natural environment in Chile and Argentina, including the establishment of new national parks. And today we are honored to have Dr. Haruki Tsuchiya, who is being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, with us here in Kyoto. And we also have received special video messages from Mr. Mariel Prugal-Vidal and Ms. Chris Tompkins, who are unable to visit Japan this time. I am very happy that we are able to hold this 12th commendation ceremony and add a new page to the history of the Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto. A decarbonized society would not be realized overnight. It will not be created by somebody else, but will only be realized through the involvement of all actors across generations, organizations, and regions. In particular, I believe that environmental education for children, who will be the leaders of the next generation, is of great importance. We would like to continue to exhibit the achievements of the inductees at this memorial site, where the Kyoto Protocol was signed, and to pass on the passion of each person who has given light to the future of the Earth to the next generation. We hope that Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto will continue to play an important role in the conservation of the global environment and the realization of a sustainable future, and that we'll continue to communicate this message to the world together with you. I ask for your kind cooperation for that. In conclusion, I would like to express my sincere wishes for the health and happiness of all of you gathered here today. November 15th, 2021, Chairman of the Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto Management Council, Juichi Yamagiwa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yamagiwa. Takatoshi Nishiwaki, Governor of Kyoto Prefecture, will have a greeting. Hello, everyone. I'm Nishiwaki Takatoshi, Governor of Kyoto Prefecture. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Haruki Tsuchiya, Mr. Manuel Vidal, and Ms. Christine Tompkins on the institution Kyoto Earth Hall of Fame. Congratulations. I'd like to express my heartfelt welcome to all of you to come this awarding ceremony for COVID-19 during that time for citizens, for businesses. Thank you very much for cooperation and utmost effort for medical resources. We are able to overcome the fifth wave. I'd like to graduate once again. We would like to have continue the anti-infection and restore the economy. But the COVID-19 is not ended, so I would ask your cooperation for the anti-infection. For the Earth Hall of Fame, as Mr. Yamagiwa mentioned, Chairman, in the world, the people who have contributed to the Earth preservation from the Kyoto to the world and disseminate the importance of Earth preservation. Mr. Shukuro Manabe, the first inductee of Kyoto Earth Hall of Fame, awarded the Nobel Prize in this October, and I'd like to congratulate him for his achievement. At Glasgow in UK, from October 31st, COP26, it was extended the original schedule and closed November 13th. And the final moment about the coal and thermal power plant, it had a difficult discussion to made agreement. So the phrase was changed from the fade out to fades down and reached a final agreement. As for a precondition, the average global temperature before the pre-industrial level to keep below 1.5 degrees Celsius, and from one step forward from the Paris Agreement. And this was highly expressed from the specialist. I also, at this Earth Hall of Fame ceremony last year, I announced the net zero by carbon emission by net 2050. It was a very ambitious decrement, but the Japanese government followed the same process. So for the decarbonization society, we're making an effort. And for April this year, with the Kyoto City and the Earth Environmental, and we created a Kyoto announcement, and we are collecting the information and sending information with this organization. For this time, the research of Mr. Tsuchiya Haruki is focused on the enhancement of energy by using renewable energy for total return to zero. And by his achievement, he is going to be a new inductee. I'd like to show deep respect and for the global warming measures. And for achieve of the decarbonized society, we'd like to ask your guidance. In conclusion, I would express the congratulations for all new activities, and I wish the health and happiness for all of attendees. Congratulations on the new activities. Thank you very much, Mr. Nishiwaki. I'd like to ask Daisaku Kadokawa, Mayor of Kyoto City, to have greetings. Hello, everyone. I'm Daisaku Kadokawa, Mayor of Kyoto. First of all, President Yamagiwa and the organizer of Kyoto Arts Hall of Fame, for the people who have made an utmost effort for working of the arts conservation, I'd like to express a deep respect for you and congratulate on Mr. Haruki Tsuchiya. You have made a lot of guidance to the arts conservation of the Kyoto, and I'd like to express the gratitude to you, and I'd like to express gratitude to Ms. Tompkins and Mr. Manuel Berger and Mr. Manabe's Nobel Award is very happy thing. And Mr. Nishiwaki mentioned the COP26 in Glasgow managed to reach an agreement. It's a one step forward. There are many challenges, and we like to make a continuous effort on this. And Ministry of Environment and ICOM, with online, we have discussed, have participated a lot of discussion. The urban city make advanced effort and with the clear goal and to have a successful experience. And while COP26 was postponed, extended one day and reached agreement, and the COP3, the 24 years ago, at the final moment, it might not be reached an agreement. It was extended to 10 days to 11 days. At this venue, down, it had a big applause, and it was the first agreement to cut global warming gases. And people, I heard that the foreign participant said here, for 1,000 years, beautiful nature and the urban cities are well blended, and such a deep discussion has made here. The agreement has made by this menu. It was supported by this moment, and mottainai, water waste. That spirit is also, like Dr. Mathai, appreciated by foreign visitors. This must be used. And Kyoto City, for the first time, created ordinance specified in global warming. The tourists are increasing and the populations are flat, and we reduce the garbage to half or more, and people, what are using when they're transporting my cars, it decreased to 20%, and using public transportation increased by 30%. And that steady progress by citizens have progressed. And 42% of travelers came to Kyoto, but it's reduced to 80%. And 2 years ago, at here, IPCC Kyoto meeting was held, and it's an action period of Paris Agreement. And the guideline was adopted after the 5 days of discussion. And I said to the president of IPCC that from Kyoto Protocol to Paris Agreement and IPCC guideline, please put a name on Kyoto. Yes, that's a good idea. Please use it. So the Minister of Environment used this as well. I was proud of it, and I think it's a great mission for us. And 2 years ago from here, as the first municipal government, we declared the CO2 net zero by 2050. As together with the Kyoto Protocol, we created a new ordinance. In 2050 net zero, all citizens, all people should make an utmost effort. Again, I'd like to congratulate the 3 new inductees, and we will declare that we will make utmost continuous effort. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Kadokawa. I would ask Mr. Tatsuro Sekine, Director General of Kinki Regional Environment Office, Ministry of Environment of Japan, will have greetings. Thank you very much for introduction. I'm Sekine from Director of Kinki Regional Environment Office. Originally, it should be an honor to have greetings, but he cannot come to this venue, so I'd like to read his messages today on his behalf. Today, I'd like to express a gratitude for the 12th commemoration ceremony of the Earth Hall of Fame will be held. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Haruki Tsuchiya, Mr. Manuel Pulgar Vidal, Ms. Kristen Tompkins. Congratulations on the induction into Earth Hall of Fame. From here, where the birth of Kyoto Protocol, they made a great contribution of the Earth preservation. We will award them and send a message to the world. It will be shared ambitious goal and contributed to the messages to the world to share the ambitious goal to preserve global warming. And yes, last year we CO2 emission 2050 net zero last year. And this April, the ambitious goal that matched with it in 2030, global emission is to be cut by 46% from a 2013 level, and to cut, we are making utmost effort to cut more by 2050. And yesterday, recently, the UK Glasgow, the Leaders Summit and COP26, Prime Minister Kishida mentioned that a strong commitment for carbon neutral and centering around Asia, they implement the renewable energy maximum level and create a decarbonized society to the world. Currently, Japan annually emits more than 1.2 billion tons of global warming gases and need to be net zero by 2050. It will be an ambitious goal, and the challenge to achieve this goal is to lead to the changes of the industry organization. So for the whole Japan, need to tackle this. A Ministry of Environment for regional decarbon efforts and push the businesses to change these businesses and create a new business for new carbon neutral. All of the Japan government will push these efforts. For new inductees, I would ask more guidance and advice. In conclusion, I would ask your continued success and health, and this Kyoto Earth Hall of Fame will be meaningful for the future. November 15th, 2021, Hiroshi Ono, the Director of the Ministry of Environment, Japan. Congratulations on your new inductees. Thank you very much, Mr. Sekine. And I'd like to start the awardation ceremony. For the 12th inductees, new inductees is the President of Kyoto Eco-Energy Institute, President of Research Institute for System Technology, Mr. Tsuchiya Haruki. The certificate will be presented from Mr. Yamagiwa. Mr. Yamagiwa, could you please come to the front stage? The Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto is for a long time, for the great contribution you have made and for the wisdom and passion you have brought to the earth to bear your endeavors to ensure that Earth, our mother and lifeblood, is passed on to the future generations. And in spirit of deepest respect and profoundest acclaim for your achievement, here in the birthplace of Kyoto Protocol, a document of historical importance for the Earth's future and humankind, we acknowledge and applaud into the induction of Kyoto Earth Hall of Fame of November 15, 2021, Earth Hall of Fame Management Council. Juichi Yamagiwa. Congratulations. Congratulations. Attendants, please give him a big applause. I'd like to give him a commemoration gift. This is Kyoto's Nishijin fabric, and the latest technologies are blended and the fine fabric. Congratulations. Please give him a big applause. And I'd like to ask Mr. Tsuchiya for greetings.
Now, Dr. Tsuchiya, microphone is yours. Thank you very much for your invitation to the Earth Hall of Fame, Kyoto. When I was first contacted, I was very much surprised and felt very honored. And seeing the faces of the other inductees in the Hall of Fame, I was very much surprised and felt very humble. Here at the Kyoto International Conference Center in 1997, the COP3 was held and various discussions were held. And I was one of the participants in these discussions. And at that time, I did not even dream that I would be standing on the stage like this today. And what I did in the past 40 years, after the oil shock, I studied energy issues and the mining of the fossil fuel from underground. I thought that I have to switch the civilization from that hunting type to the cultivating civilization. I started with a simple idea. So as we did about the production of food from hunting to cultivation, we have to do the same about energy. That's what I thought. And when I first proposed that idea, nobody paid attention to that. But in the late 1980s, the cost of photovoltaic power generation began to decrease, and the cost of the wind power generation and hydraulic power generation began to drop. And IPCC and COP started in 1990s. And according to yesterday's news, the COP26 now involves the countries around the world, and the old world is now gearing toward the energy cultivation type civilization direction. And today, I had the chance to see the members of the Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto Management Council, Kyoto Prefecture, Kyoto City, and all over here. And I'd like to express my gratitude for all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Dr. Tsuchiya. And we received the congratulatory video message from Mr. Emory B. Robbins.
Hello, dear friends in Kyoto. With his esteemed co-awardees, Manuel Pulgar Vidal and Christine Thompson's, another dear friend of mine, I heartily congratulate my friend and colleague of half a lifetime, Tsuchiya Haruki-sensei. From the 1970s, he has shown the world that Japan, though poor in fuel, is actually rich in energy. Japan has enough renewable energy to meet all of its needs cost-effectively, safely, and securely. This becomes easier, quicker, and cheaper if Japan also harvests its rich reserves of energy in efficiency. Many Japanese industries are among the most energy efficient in the world, but even they can improve. In contrast, Japan's buildings and even many vehicles on the roads are far less efficient than international norms. If Japan's utilities were rewarded for cutting bills, not for selling more energy, they would want more efficiency. If we paid our architects and engineers for what they save, not what they spend, they would save more. If buyers of new vehicles or buildings either received a rebate or paid a fee, depending on efficiency, they would buy more efficiency. If negawatts, saved electricity, were bought whenever they cost less than megawatts, many of today's power plants could gracefully retire. So what can modern efficiency do? My house here high in the Rocky Mountains grows passive solar bananas, 79 crops so far, in outdoor temperatures down to minus 44 degrees Celsius, with no heating system and lower construction costs. The same approach works in Bangkok. Everyone in Japan lives between those two climates. My home and office need no furnace, no air conditioner. They run the electric meter more backwards than forwards. They use only solar power that works with or without the grid. My electric car gets 53 kilometers per liter equivalent because it saves hundreds of kilograms by replacing metal with ultralight carbon fiber, paid for from fewer batteries and simpler manufacturing. I may next buy a 146 kilometer per liter electric car that drives over 40 kilometers a day, powered entirely by its built-in solar cells without plugging in. Just making all of our pipes and ducts fat, short, and straight instead of skinny, long, and crooked could save a fifth of the world's electricity, cost less to build in new installations, and repay its cost within a year in old ones. We now know how to save half the world's cement and steel by smarter building design. For example, using corrugated floor slabs 1/4 the normal weight. This can also fit 3 stories into the vertical space of 2 with the same ceiling height. And soon we'll make those energy-intensive materials from green hydrogen using renewable electricity, which now costs several-fold less in countries that allow full and fair competition than in Japan. That plummeting market price causes extraordinary growth. Renewables are now 90% of the world's net capacity additions. In 2020, the world added 5.5 gigawatts of nuclear capacity, the same amount of lithium-ion batteries that the world's electric grids added, and retired 5.2 gigawatts of nuclear. The net nuclear addition, 0.4 gigawatts, was 781 times less than the 278 gigawatt growth of renewable capacity, which added about 220 times more annual electricity production. In the U.S., unsubsidized solar and wind power now cost 3 to 13 times less per kilowatt hour than new nuclear power. Renewables or efficiency cost less than just running existing reactors, saving more carbon per dollar. Even heavy transport and industrial heat can often be decarbonized, not at a cost, but at a profit. The electric grid can also become even more reliable and resilient as it becomes renewable. Progress with batteries is very fast, but 9 bigger and cheaper carbon-free ways to balance the grid are now available. Today, if you plug your charged electric car into Amsterdam's Green Stadium to help power it, you can watch the game for free, leaving you enough range to get home. By careful choreography, several European countries with little or no hydropower now get half to nearly all of their electricity from renewables with superior reliability and no big batteries. The ultra-reliable grid of the former East Germany was 62% renewably powered last year and expects 100% by 2032. Allowing proper grid access and real competition in Japan could do the same, lowering bills while repowering Japan forever from the sacred sun on its flag. Our task is to enable and allow that new energy system, not protect the old one, mobilizing Japan's famous discipline and speed so the energy transformation is not slowed by the inertia of incumbents, but sped by the ambition of insurgents. I salute Jutsuya Sensei, that quiet and effective insurgent, and your splendid co-awardees for your devotion, vision, and leadership toward a richer, fairer, cooler, safer world for all. Gosecho makoto ni arigatou gozaimasu.
That was the video message by Mr. Amory V. Robbins. And we have received video messages from other two inductees, Mr. Marian Prugal-Vidal and Ms. Christine Tompkins, who are not with us today for the prevention of COVID-19. Let me show you first the one from Mr. Marian Prugal-Vidal.
Dear members of the Kyoto Prefecture, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, people of Japan, I am here in Lima, Peru, very sad of not being with you all, but on the other hand, fully honored, strongly happy, with a lot to say to transmit my gratitude of being part of the Earth Hall of Fame. Thank you again, thank you for this recognition, and hope to see you soon.
続きまして、クリス・トンプキンス様のビデオメッセージです。
Next is Ms. Chris Tompkins.
Greetings to everyone in Kyoto and watching remotely. Your Excellencies, leaders, students, and citizens. I wish I could be with all of you today in Kyoto for this very special event. I'm truly honored to have been chosen to join the Earth Hall of Fame. My name is Christine Tompkins. I'm speaking to you from California. I'm the president and co-founder, along with my late husband, Doug Tompkins, of Tompkins Conservation, an organization that has spent the last 30 years defending wild nature in Chile and Argentina. Before that, I was the CEO of Patagonia Company for nearly 20 years. During that time, I had many wonderful trips to Japan. I have great admiration for your extraordinary culture and you as people. It's my great pleasure and a true honor to join you today.
This concludes the commendation ceremony for Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto. congratulations to the new inductees. Now, Dr. Tsuchiya, please take your seat in the arena. And those in the host on the stage, please leave the stage now. And those in the arena, please wait for the further announcement for the International Symposium, the Earth Forum Kyoto. We are going to open the International Symposium at 2 o'clock, so please wait for a moment.
会場の皆様にご案内いたします。会場の外にて京都府内の高校生が気候変動について勉強会を通じて理解を深め、そこで学んだことを踏まえて殿堂入り者に向けて作成した英語によるビデオメッセージや、小学生が2050年の CO2 ゼロの未来について考えたり調べたりしたことを絵や文章で表現したチャレンジシートをデジタルサイネージで掲示しておりますので、皆様ぜひ密を避けながらご覧ください。またオンラインで視聴の方はビデオメッセージやチャレンジシートを電動ホームページに掲示しておりますので、ぜひご覧ください。また本館正面玄関横に京都地球環境の伝道の展示スペースがございます。そちらに展示しております肖像画は、先ほど殿堂入りされた土屋春樹様、マニュエル・プルガール・ビダル様、クリス・トンプキンス様をはじめ、これまでに殿堂入りされた方々を京都の伝統工芸西陣織と最先端の技術を融合させて聖地に織り上げたものです。皆様ぜひご覧ください。また先月ノーベル賞を受賞されました真鍋淑郎様のパネルや寄贈品も展示しております。新型コロナウイルス感染症の拡大防止のため、会場内およびロビーでは常時マスクなどの着用の上、こまめな手指の消毒のご協力をお願いいたします。国際シンポジウム開始の14時までにはご着席いただきますようお願いいたします。それではお時間までご自由にお過ごしくださいませ。皆様、本日は京都環境文化学術フォーラム国際シンポジウムに参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございます。まもなく国際シンポジウムを始めさせていただきます。お席にお着きになってお待ちください。会場内の写真、ビデオの撮影はご遠慮くださいますようお願いいたします。また携帯電話、スマートフォンの電源はお切りになるかマナーモードに設定していただきますようお願いいたします。お手洗いなどは開演までにお済ませくださいませ。なお、本日の記念講演では日英の同時通訳を導入しております。 15時15分からのパネルディスカッションにご登壇のパタゴニア日本支社支社長マーティ・ポンフレー氏は英語でのディスカッションとなります。会場入り口でレシーバーをお配りしておりますので、ぜひご利用ください。チャンネル1が日本語、チャンネル2が英語です。またお帰りの際はレシーバーをご返却いただきますようよろしくお願いいたします。それでは開演までしばらくお待ちください。皆様お待たせいたしました。
Thank you very much for waiting. We'd like to start commemorative lecture of the Earth Forum from Kyoto International Symposium. First of all, Mr. Nagahiro Minato, Chairman of the Earth Forum Kyoto, President of Kyoto University, will extend the opening remarks. I am deeply grateful that the International Symposium of the Earth Forum Kyoto opened with a large audience, including online visitors today. On behalf of the organizer, I'd like to say a few words of the opening. This forum is being organized for the purpose of proposing and transmitting new sense of values, economic and societal system to create a sustainable society by 6 parties, including Kyoto Prefecture, Kyoto City, Kyoto Prefecture University, Research Institute for Humanity and Nature, International Research Center for Japanese Studies, and the Kyoto universities, marking 12 times this year. It's a tremendous honor and great pleasure to welcome Mr. Haruki Tsuchiya to today's International Symposium, who has just become the newest inductee into the Kyoto Earth Hall of Fame. In today's International Symposium is going to be held under the theme of Vision toward a decarbonized society to achieve net zero. After the keynote speech by Mr. Tsuchiya, the talk session is going to be held with the 3 workshop with high school students, 5 high school students with climate change specialists. The climate change will have a big impact to the future generation. So the young generation to learn and send message is crucial. In this talk session, the high school students will give questions to Mr. Tsuchiya during the work session. So I would encourage the attendees to think together. After that, under the coordination of Mr. Kenichi Abe, Professor of Research, Humanity and Nature, a panel discussion will be held inviting Mr. Tsuchiya and Mr. Hironori Hamanaka, Chair of ICLEI Japan, Mr. Marty Ponfe, General Manager of Patagonia Japan, Ms. Kaori Miyake, co-representative of JCLP Executive Officer in charge of environmental study, social initiative at ION Limited. This theme is toward net zero society. It's the countrywide efforts, and from a local government, the viewpoint to work toward decarbonization is necessary. And commitment by business toward decarbonization is important as well. From these viewpoints, at this today's panel discussion from Mr. Hamanaka, the ICLEI's efforts to achieve sustainable society. From Ms. Miyake, the trend of sustainable society in coordination with the community and consumers. And from Mr. Marty, the conservation education of young generations. They are going to talk with their viewpoints, I expect. In conclusion, I wish that today's International Symposium will be a fruitful one for all of you, and heartfelt wishes for health and happiness for all those here today. November 15, 2021. Nagahiro Minato, Chairman of the Earth Forum Kyoto. Thank you very much, Mr. Minato.
Now we will have the commemorative lecture by Dr. Haruki Tsuchiya, the new inductee to Earth Hall of Fame Kyoto this year. Now please welcome Dr. Tsuchiya with big hands. So I would like to share with you what I have been thinking so far and introduce you some interesting episodes. My title is The Switch to Energy Cultivation Civilization. In 1980s, Toyo Keizai, the publishing house, issued my book, The Energy Cultivation Civilization. So, as the human being did the transition from hunting to agriculture or cultivation as for the food production, I thought that the same thing can happen with energy. So, switching from the hunting type civilization in which we mine the fuel from underground to cultivate energy, basically starting with the utilization of solar power, wind, and hydraulic. That's the idea I got. But whether or not this idea can be realized has to wait what happens after that. And around that time, in the late 1970s, Mr. Amory Robbins, who appeared in the video message, issued a soft energy pass and became a very hot topic. And he was invited to the presidential residence by President Carter. And in this way, with the hot energy pass, it was thought that the consumption of the coal and petroleum will increase in that way. And he thought that this hot energy path would be very difficult. So rather than hot energy path, the switch to soft energy path should take place. That was the idea by Amory Robbins about 40 years ago. And this is a picture I took 40 years ago. And you could see how greatly he changed. And I translated this book, Soft Energy Path, together with economist Monroe. And in English, such energy from the solar power was called renewable energy. That was the first time for me to see that word. And I decided to use the word of natural energy. But in English, there was no way to describe the solar power as natural energy because coal and oil are also the part of the nature. So in the past, we call them as natural resource. So we have to call the solar power as renewable energy. But this word sounds very difficult to me. So I translated these words into natural energy. But nowadays, we use the word of renewable energy in laws and regulations in Japan. So we now have to use the word renewable energy. And let me look back what happened in the past 40 years. So 3 major nuclear accidents took place. And in 1988, IPCC was generated to give warning against the global warming, global climate change. And from COP3 in Kyoto to COP26 in Glasgow were held. And now the world is discussing the reduction target of 1.5 degrees Celsius. And India declared by 2070 will achieve the carbon neutral. At the time of the COP3 here at Kyoto, India and China insisted that they have the right to develop economically and do not want to eliminate any emission. But now at COP26, they greatly changed their attitude. And the impact of climate change is now visible to the people in the cities. So the torrential rain, flood, or rise of sea surface temperature are taking place anywhere. And at the end of 1980s, Cold War ended, and the issue, the common issue in the world, disappeared because of the end of Cold War. So the Prime Minister Thatcher and other leaders of the world began to take up these environmental or climate issues. But without the actual accidents or impacts of climate change, which are visible, the ordinary people did not tend to think about these things. But there are also some good changes. For example, there were the technology innovations, such as the invention of LED lightings. By 2030, we can expect that most of the lightings will be LED, and a solar battery appeared, about which I will talk about later, and electric vehicle with light and high-capacity battery. AV is realized, and we now have the wind power generation and the fuel cells. And Japanese government declared to achieve carbon neutral in 2050 and cut 46% of the CO2 by 2030. And also announced that the cost of photovoltaic power generation is now smaller than that of the nuclear power generation. And I sought a way to express these in a scientific manner. And in 1982, at Princeton University, I attended an energy workshop, and I visited Solar Energy Research Institute in Denver. That was the institute established by President Carter, and I looked into the literature there, and found one theory, which you see here. That was literature about learning curve. So, because of the accumulated introduction becomes 2 times, the cost can be reduced. So there was it was only Japan at that time which had the big investment into the solar power generation. And the receiver of that budget from the national government, I have to make a report that how much power generation they did on the newspapers. And in 1982, I wanted to analyze that situation was using this learning curve, but there was only 3 years of data. And I waited for 10 years until 1989. And we accumulated the data every year and found that the learning level reached 82%, and when accumulated introduction became double, I found that the cost could be reduced, but nobody paid attention to that. And I made another 2 analyses of that learning curve. And in 1979, the 1 kilowatt cost was 14 million yen, but it could be reduced to 2 million yen in 1993 and 150,000 yen in 2020. So actually the cost was reduced to 1/100. So in this way, the panels can be simply put on the rooftop or using the zero energy house with a high insulation are now available this moment. And the large-scale one is a mega solar systems. Now, when deforestation is a big issue, so the zoning regulation by the local government is required. But even without deforestation, we can use various spaces such as a rooftop and walls of the large-scale buildings, or abandoned farmland, or unused land. And these are the more advanced stages. This is the case of the Netherlands. So you can find the photovoltaic batteries on the bicycle route, or in Japan, we have the solar sharing, where the agricultural production and solar power generation are done at the same time, and the generated power can be sold. And in Africa, where there are no power grid, people use this glass jar with a lid as a battery, and the store generate power during the daytime and use a lantern in the nighttime. So in Japan, if you leave this lantern on the veranda during the daytime and can bring it to your bedroom during the nighttime, it's very enjoyable. And another one is to place the panel on top of the vehicle. And we have been, NEDO has been doing this experiment every year. And now, one day charging from the solar power can have the car run 44.5 kilometers. And according to my simulation, 20 to 30% of the energy for the cars can be provided by this system. And EV newly announced by Toyota has an option to have this solar panel on rooftops. And there's a progress with the wind power generation. So both the offshore and onshore wind turbines exist. And as you can see, as for the offshore wind turbines, there is a wind velocity which is higher. And it is already decided to introduce 10 million kilowatt by 2030. And at this moment, Japan's introduction of the wind turbine is less than 4 million kilowatt. And the design of the turbine is already set for this 3 wings ones. But we also have the airborne wind turbine, which uses the high velocity upper in the atmosphere. And this is conducted on the experiment. And thanks to these developments, into the future, we may have the energy system to decarbonize the society. So without any CO2 emission, and we can be independent on energy. But some issues remain, such as the stable supply or availability of resources in the country and storage of energy. And we have been thinking about these issues. And WWF Japan came to me and asked for the support to produce the scenario for the 100% natural energy toward the decarbonized society. And let me show you what is in this scenario. So the idea is that by 2050, the population will decrease to the 80% of the current level, resulting in a smaller demand for energy. And we'll have the higher efficiency in energy use, and that will result in the further smaller energy demand. And by combining the photovoltaic and wind power generation, we will make the CO2 emission zero by 2050. And energy demand in the future can be calculated in this way. So by setting a standard year, in this case 2015 as a standard year, we will multiply various factors such as the amount of the recycled steel or efficiency, such as the insulation or others. When all these factors are combined together, we can calculate the energy demand in the future. And we can find that energy demand in 2050 will about half of the 2015. And because to a point is the change in the industrial structure, which is switching from the heavy industry to the information technology industry. And the consumption by the transportation industry will be more efficient thanks to the introduction, switched from the internal combustion engine to the more efficient ones. So energy demand is expected to decrease from now. And in Japan, we have the potential of the renewable energy introduction. And the Ministry of Environment has now announced the comprehensive report about it. And gigawatt, and this is about the photovoltaic power generation. in this way. For the residential use, 209 gigawatt, or for public use, 2,536 gigawatt potential of introduction are announced. So 100 million or 200 million kilowatt would be possible. And some executives of the major power companies said that in Japan, 10 million kilowatt is only possible. But now the Ministry of Environment announces the result of this potential study. So there was no such executive of the power company anymore. So we can say that Japan has a great potential for the introduction of the natural energy. And when we do calculation of the photovoltaic and wind power generation, so as for the wind power generation, any time in the day, the power can be generated. And the bottom one shows the monthly power generation. So from spring to summertime, the solar power generation produces much power. And against this, the wind power generation is larger in the winter time. So the combination of the photovoltaic and the wind power generation can be very effective. So in this way, we calculate the energy provision. And this is the left side is 2015. And in 2050, on the right side, the energy provision can be smaller because now we use coal, petroleum, and gas to produce power, to generate power, but efficiency is just 40%. So 60% of the power energy is now being discharged into atmosphere. But with the solar power generation or wind power generation, we do not have such loss. So in this way, provision can be smaller. And this is so we have the power demand A and B. So the demand A is for the residential use, like for the lightings, and the demand B is for the EV, FCV, and aircraft and vessels. And this is possible to shift the demand. So we have the demand list. According to the weather forecast, we can adjust the production of this power demand B. And we also have the other ambient heat and so on.
And some of plant will be decommissioned and with the other fossil fuel and combination with natural resources. This is a simulation per hour, and red one is the photovoltaic, and green is wind, and the yellow is gas. And when that is exceeded power, it will be charged to the batteries or water pumping and used to when there is insufficiency. So that's the match with the supply and balance. As such, that wind and the photovoltaic equipment will be installed. There might be a large area will be needed. But this shows the density of the area. Based on the calculation, the schools or desirable lands, the photovoltaic equipment, PV, photovoltaics is called, is about 1% of the total area. So for the wind power, the greater area will be needed. About 2.7% we need it, but for the area, that's not the ground area, but we need an area that's the energy to capture the wind passing the windmill is needed. So the 40.6% will be the forest. So that kind of a ratio is needed. That is the permittable area. So then by 2050, the CO2 emission can be contained. In 2030, 53%. In 2040, minus 2%. And 2050, it's going to be zero. And to do so, a huge amount of cost might be needed. But as I mentioned, based on the learning curve, we calculated for vehicles and homes and industrial energy saving, about 80 trillion yen will be needed, and for energy saving, 100 trillion yen will be needed. Total 250 trillion yen will be needed. It's be 8.5 trillion yen, 1% of GDP. If we keep importing fossil fuel, it will need 10 billion yen or more. It is a feasible way to do so. So finally, in the energy hunting civilization to energy cultivating civilization is possible, and moving is and the cost for PV and the wind has been decreasing. But the global warming is rapidly increasing and is imminent. Use a carbon budget. And I just talk about technology, but we have to change our lifestyle from using too much resources and changing from fossil fuel and changing our industry structure and society. Such kind of large change that is needed. Today, I talk to everything that I have been studying for a long time. I apologize for talking speedily. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Mr.
Haruki Tsuchiya, thank you very much. Please leave the podium. We'd like now start the commemorator lecture of new inductees, Mr. Manuel Brubigigar, with a video message.
For me, this has marked a milestone, an emotional milestone, because immediately you are making me to remind my last 35 years of life. I strongly remember 1986, when I was a student at the Faculty of Law, and with a group of friends, we decided to start an organization to strengthen the role of the law to address the environmental problems. It was an amazing time of energy. It was an amazing time of innovation. And in the beginning, we used to work in strengthening new laws for Peru, in development some innovation to have Peru addressing their main environmental topics. Soon after that time, in 1992, when I was 30 years old, I strongly remember when I went to Rio 92. What a summit! It was a summit in which we took the most strong decisions that fortunately made possible to be now celebrating many other things. We decided to adopt two key conventions, biological diversity and climate change. We also developed new terms and new concepts and a new vision through the Sustainable Development One. Also, we adopt new principles, among many other good decisions. And I think that was a starting point for the world. It was a point in which everybody collectively decided that we should move things forward. And fortunately, in some way, we have made it. So after that, 20 years after that, I went back to Rio for what it was called the Rio +20, in which we adopted the future we want. Key time in which the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted. And it is clear that we are moving our actions towards its achievement. What an amazing experience. That was a time in which we had already started to be minister, because I was appointed as Minister of the Environment of Peru in 2011. So because of that, in 2014, I had one of my main and richest experiences. I was the president of the COP20, just a year before of the Paris Agreement. So my responsibility and the responsibility of Peru was key. The expectation of having Peru doing good things was really key. And you know, I learned in 2 weeks more on what I had learned in the last 10 years. Because when your role it is to bring together almost 200 countries to take decisions, that is a challenge. And where are we now? We are in a time in which probably we are not really appreciating what we have done. And in my point of view, the fact that now the world is not doubting that we must move our actions to don't raise temperature in more than 1.5. The fact that we have clarity that by 2050 we have to have net zero and resilient economy, and the fact that we have to halve emission by 2030, it has been collectively adopted. I mentioned in the beginning that this award, it is for me an emotional milestone. And for sure it is, because it has brought to me more energy, also more vitality. And I am sure that it will encourage me to continue putting my effort and dedication for a better planet. And as you know, I am now with WWF. I am the Climate and Energy Global Practice Lead. And in that position, I will continue working to achieve our objective, to keep our vision, but more than that, to act. I am fully sure that this is the same feeling of my friends, the fellow inductees Tsuchiya Haruki and Christine Tompkins, to whom also I congratulate for their nomination. So friends of Japan, students, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue, let's keep our effort to continue working together. Let's make this planet a better place to live. Let's continue achieving our objective. We will never give up. It is the only way to secure to current and future generations a better planet. It is about the planet, it is about us. So join us, join all together. Let's promote the convergence to work in favor of a better planet through our climate actions and by protecting nature and by defining the better management of ecosystem and habitats. Thank you again. Thank you for this recognition and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.
We'd like to start the commemorative lectures of new inductees, Miss Christine Tompkins. Please watch the video message from Miss Tompkins.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Tompkins, and first and foremost, I'd like to thank the City of Kyoto's Earth Hall of Fame Management Committee for representing our work in this way. We appreciate it so much, and on behalf of all of the teams in the US and Chile and Argentina, I send you a big thank you. I'm going to give you a little story about us so you can understand what we've been doing for the last 28 years. And here's a little history. By the end of the 1980s, my husband Doug decided to leave business altogether and commit the last third of his life to what he called paying his rent for living on the planet. At nearly the same time, when I hit 40, I was ready to do something completely new with my life. And the day after retiring from Patagonia, the company, I headed 6,000 miles south to Patagonia, the place, to join Doug, where he had already begun his first land conservation project. There we were, refugees from the corporate world, holed up in a cabin in the south of Chile, surrounded by primeval rainforest, where alerce trees can live up to 1,000 years. We were in the middle of a great wilderness that forms one of only 2 gaps in the Pan American Highway between Fairbanks, Alaska, and Cape Horn. A radical change in our daily lives spurred on as we begun to recognize how beauty and diversity were being destroyed pretty much everywhere. The last wild, unprotected places on Earth were still wild mostly because the relentless front lines of development hadn't really gotten there yet. Doug and I were in one of the most remote places on Earth, and still around the edges of Pumaling Park, our first conservation effort. Industrial aquaculture was spreading like a malignancy. Before too long, other threats to Patagonia would emerge: mining for gold, dam projects on several of the region's most spectacular rivers, and other growing conflicts. The vibration of stampeding economic growth worldwide could be heard even in the highest latitudes of the southern cone. I know that progress is often viewed in purely positive terms, as some sort of hopeful evolution. But from where we sat, we saw the dark side of industrial growth. And when industrial worldviews are applied to natural systems that support all life, we humans begin to treat the Earth simply as a factory that produces what we think we need. As we're all painfully aware today, the consequences of that worldview are destructive to human welfare, our climate systems, and of course, wildlife. Doug called it the price of progress. That's how we saw things, and we wanted to be part of the resistance pushing up against those trends. The idea of buying private land and then donating it to create national parks isn't really new. Anyone who's ever enjoyed the view of the Tetons in Wyoming or camped at Acadia National Park in Maine has benefited from this tradition. Through our family foundation, we began to acquire wildlife habitat in Chile and Argentina to continue that custom. As believers in conservation biology, we were going for big, wild, and connected. Lands that were pristine in some cases, and other lands that would need time to heal and to what we call rewild. Eventually, we bought more than 2 million acres from willing sellers, assembling them into privately managed protected areas while building park infrastructure such as campgrounds and hiking trails, so these areas would be able to welcome all the public. Our goal was to donate all of this land and infrastructure in the form of new national parks, and this is what we did. Over the past 27 years, we've permanently protected nearly 15 million acres made up of temperate rainforest, Patagonia steppe grasslands, coastal areas, and freshwater wetlands by creating 13 new national parks comprised of our land donations and neighboring federal lands of Chile and Argentina. Among them, in 2018, to create new marine national parks, we set to covering roughly 25 million acres in the southern Atlantic Ocean with no commercial fishing or extraction of any kind. In 2019, we finalized the largest private land gift in history when our last 1 million acres of conservation land in Chile passed to the government, a public-private partnership that created 5 new national parks, expanded 3 others, in a sum protecting an area larger than Switzerland. All of our projects are the result of partnerships, first and foremost with the Chilean and Argentine national governments. Leaders who understand the value of protecting the crown jewels of their countries for the benefit of future generations. Partnerships with like-minded philanthropists have also been central to our conservation work. 15 years ago, we realized that protecting landscapes was only a part of the work to be done to fully restore ecosystems. Everywhere we worked, we began to ask, who's missing? What species have disappeared or whose numbers were too low and fragile? How do we eliminate the very reasons that caused those species to be lost in the first place? What seems so obvious now hit us like a thunderbolt at the time. Unless all the members of the community are present and flourishing, it's impossible for us to leave behind fully functioning ecosystems. And from that point forward, the nature of our work changed in the most extraordinary ways. We decided that we would bring back anyone who was missing. And since then, we've successfully reintroduced giant anteaters, pampas deer, tapirs, peccaries, and other native species in Iberá National Park in northern Argentina. Green-winged macaws, gone for over a century, soar again over the marshlands. The capstone of these efforts in Iberá was the commitment to return the apex carnivores to their rightful place, jaguars on the land and giant otters in the water. We built the first jaguar breeding center in the world, and after several years, we are watching the first 6 jaguars who are roaming free in Iberá since the 1930s. Our rewilding projects in Chile are gaining ground on the low numbers of several key species in the Patagonia region, such as the nearly extinct huemul deer and lesser reyes. So, I'll leave you with this. There are deep and legitimate questions about the future planet we're leaving behind when our lives are done. I'm a realist and not often an optimist, but through our work and the work of millions of other people around the world, I've come to see that it is only the limits of our own imaginations that both human will and the series of crises that we face now will force us to change the way we understand our relationship with the natural world. Will we have the courage to change our cultural behavior and not live by what has been done in the past, but rather what should be accomplished for the future? All life depends on this. No one is immune. We lose nothing by changing our habits, and we have everything to gain. Thank you.
Let us close the commemorative lecture. After this, we'd like to start a talk session with new inductees, Mr. Haruki Tsuchiya, and high school students. Please wait for a while until we arrange the stage.
本日のシンポジウムでは
At this
日英の
symposium-
同時通訳を導入しております。15時15分からのパネルディスカッションにご登壇のパタゴニア日本支社支社長のマーティ・ポンフレー氏は英語でのディスカッションとなります。会場入り口でレシーバーをお配りしておりますので、ぜひご利用ください。チャンネル1が日本語、チャンネル2が英語です。また、お帰りの際はレシーバーをご返却いただきますようよろしくお願いいたします。ただいまより高校
Let us now start the talk session with high school students and Mr. Haruki Tsuchiya.
改めまして
I'd like to introduce again
土屋様
The
です。
new inductees, Mr. Tsuchiya.
続きまして
And I'd like to
高校生のご
introduce
紹
high
介です。
school students.
南陽高校1年金久
Yumi
さん
Kanehisa, the first grade of Nanyo High School.
佐賀野高校2年
Mao
佐
Sato,
藤真央さん。
second grade of Sagano High School.
北陵高校2年
Wataru Taniguchi,
渡さん。
second grade of Hokuryo High School.
森山高校
みのり
失礼いたしました桃山高校
Minori
2年
Hasegawa,
長谷川
second
みのりさん。
grade of Momoyama Senior High School.
紫野高校1年
Shuwa Yatsuhashi, first grade of
修和さん。
Murasaki no High School.
まず高校
First
生
of
によ
all,
る
I'd like to introduce the climate change education program.
This
This program, targeting high school students from Kyoto universities to deepen the understanding of climate change, to provide an opportunity to share what they have learned. And 44 high school students from 12 high schools have participated. First of all, they have welcomed a specialist of the climate change, Mr. Kihara Hirotaka, Deputy Director of Kyoto Center for Climate Actions, Mr. Emori Seita, Deputy Director at Center for Global Environmental Research, and Mr. Usami Makoto, Professor at the Graduate School of Global Environmental Studies. And through these 3 online workshops, students have deepened the understanding of climate change. Then compiled what they have learned during the workshop and future actions, and created an English video message to inductees, or consider questions to Mr. Tsuchiya for today's talk session. They participated proactively. Today, it is a great opportunity. We'd like to introduce one of the video messages to new inductees. And we also received the video message to high school students from foreign inductees. For other video messages are displayed on the digital signage in front of the venue or the Earth Hall of Fame website. So first, we'd like to introduce a video message to foreign inductees.
Hello, we are students of Hokuryo High School. This is message from us.
In order to solve problems arising from climate change, Japan has established an ambitious goal of decarbonizing by 2050. It also wants to attain a ratio of 36 to 38% for renewable energy by 2030, with solar energy providing 15% of the total. When we had that, our first impression was to think, won't it be really hard to decarbonize Japan by 2050?
However, thanks to this workshop, we took a look at what our own school has been doing and learned that the solar panels installed on the roofs of buildings at Hokuryo High School are already producing 25 to 30% of the total electricity the school uses each year. Although Hokuryo High School is only a small-scale example, it gives us great hope that the goal of decarbonization by 2050 can be reached.
One strong impression left by this first workshop was the image of the youth versus adults. Today we can see young people around the world taking part in strikes and demonstrations one after another. But holding strikes and demonstrations alone will not solve our problems. There are many things that we young people still do not understand. The lifestyle that we take for granted may be threatening someone else's lifestyle, and human activities may be making the earth uninhabitable for many living creatures, including human beings. We must learn more and then raise our voices.
High school students like us do not have the power to directly cause major change. We need the strength of adults. For that reason, our government needs to listen to what scientists are saying and then take decisive action. Companies must adopt sustainable manufacturing practices, and schools must educate the young who will be inheriting the earth accurately about the climate. In other words, we must change the social order, and everyone throughout the world must step forward to deal with the climate change issue. We also get the feeling that far too little has been done to get the message of the need for decarbonization by 2050 across to the nation's people. It was only thanks to the workshop that we too first learned about it in detail. We are eager to hear the views of the inductees concerning these issues.
Then we'd like to show the video message from Mr. Manuel Pulgar-Vidal and Ms. Chris Tompkins. First, we'd like to show the video message from Mr. Vidal.
Dear students, dear friends, dear warriors of the world, I know that you are working on climate change. I know that you are developing actions for a better planet. So it is clear you are developing your power to change this world, and you are developing your ability to influence. So let me share with you 5 important reflections for the youth. The first one, act as volunteers. That is key. The world will send to you their gratitude. Act always based in solidarity to planet and to people. Be activist. Be on the streets. Claim when you think that things must change. Learn every day. There are no limit to continue learning, and that is a key element for youth. And finally, be prepared, because you will lead the world. And I am sure that you will do it great. Thank you, friends.
We'd like to also show the video message from Ms. Tompkins.
Hi, students of Kyoto Prefecture. I hope you are well today. My name is Chris Tompkins, founder and president of Tompkins Conservation and the UN Patron of Protected Areas. It's my great pleasure to be speaking with you today about a topic that's so important to all of us and so urgent. And you know what it is: climate change. As you know, the climate crisis is already affecting how we live, how we travel, what we eat, and the questions that keep us up at night. Climate-related events are taking place with greater frequency, and their consequences have been exceptional. It has led us here to a decisive time for the planet. I had the privilege of being born on a planet that was far more intact than it is today. In the 1940s, 75% of the Earth was wild. Today, wild ecosystems have been reduced to a mere quarter of the planet. Imagine this. Oceans are deteriorating, while wetlands, grasslands, and forests lose ground, and species lose their habitat. Communities, especially those in the margins, must now face the harsh reality of a planetary ecosystem in trouble. The good news is that we can change the end of this story. I've seen it myself. In South America, where we've helped to create 13 national parks and marine reserves, restored species who had gone missing, it's possible to make the world whole again. And more than anything, I have faith in all of the young people who are taking a bold stance, demanding that societies and governments around the world address the climate crisis. As the future of this planet, you give me hope. So, what do? The answer is to start with wild nature as your measure. In our case, we concentrate on rewilding, which means helping nature heal itself. Rewilding repairs broken ecosystems by helping native animals and plants return, making them whole again, and helps to build natural resilience against floods, droughts, wildfires, and other threats. Rewilding is about reversing the cycle of destruction and creating a cycle that unites biodiversity, health, and climate by giving nature a helping hand and giving it space to restore and manage itself. Once whole and functioning, ecosystems store carbon much more effectively, promoting climate stability, and we reduce the risk of mass pandemics. Every single one of us must reimagine our place in the circle of life, not in the center, but as part of the whole. We need to remember that what we do reflects who we choose to be. Let's create a world that honors the intrinsic value of all life. We all have a role to play in restoring the planet. It starts with action, your action. It starts with getting out of bed every single morning and doing something for the things we love. Thank you.
さあ、それではトークセッションを始めさせていただきます。
Now we'd like to start the talk session. First of all, I would like to invite Ms. Kanehisa from Nanyo High School. I am Yumi Kanehisa. I attended elementary school, which is eco school, which had the solar power system, and I watched programs on the climate change. But we didn't understand how serious the issue was, so I decided to take part in the workshop. And by attending the workshop, I found that I did not know anything about the climate change. So I am ashamed of that. And we now know that our action will have impact on the future. And I'd like to convey that message to the other people too. My question to Dr. Atsushi is that in the past, were there any cases like global warming which affected climate, and when the global warming started? In August August this year, the cause of the global warming was decided to be the human being. So from now on, in other aspects, not on the climate change, but the other cases that human being may affect the global environment, how we can prevent it at the early stage. And it takes much time to start measures against climate change, and how long does it take to take measures against climate change? Thank you very much for your question. So global warming, it was first introduced in the middle of the 19th century, and it gives scientists in Sweden calculated the temperature and predicted that the global warming may take place. But at that time, nobody paid attention to that. The reason why he made that calculation or prediction is that after the Industrial Revolution, the large consumption of coal started. And at that time, the CO2 concentration in atmosphere was 280 ppm, and it gradually increased, and the very serious result was expected, and many people gave warning about that, but nothing was done. And in 1954, at Maui Island, the U.S. scientist Peeling established a tower to detect the CO2. And at the top of the tower, he took the sample of the CO2 from 54 to 84 every year. The CO2 concentration change was recorded, and there was a clear rise in the concentration of CO2 in atmosphere. So 200 ppm is now it is exceeding 410 at present. ppm is the millions, 1,000 millions. So it has been said for a long time that there will be the global warming, but nobody paid attention to that. And only when that we have the visible effects, such as the flood, typhoon, people began to pay attention. In its first report, IPCC said that it sounds what human beings is the cause of the problem. But in the sixth report, it clearly says that the human being activity by human being is the cause of the global warming. But I think it's too late for the report to decide that the cause of the global warming is human being. And the remaining carbon budget was also announced, so we now know that we do not have much time to take action against climate change. So IPCC was established in 1988. So usually the human beings are very slow to understand what is actually going on and do not take action against the reality. So we have to learn from the experiences we had with global warming to work against the coming issues. And so ozone hole or regional atmospheric pollution can be the same kind of issues. But in terms of the scale, I think the global warming is the largest one. Thank you very much for your answer, Dr. Tsuchiya. Now I'd like to invite Ms. Sato from Sagano High School. I am Mao Sato, second grade from Sagano High School. The reason why I took part in the workshop is that at the school, I am working on the climate justice. So in this workshop, I wanted to learn more about the climate justice and climate change in depth. And my question to you, so energy scenario 2050 has deeply related to the future of the young generation. And from the viewpoint of climate justice, about which the young people are playing the leading role recently, are there anything we can do now? I want to ask you this question because in energy scenario 2050, the major role should be played by the young generation or future generations. And we know that. But at this moment, honestly to say, we don't know what we have to do now. So Now the climate change idea is being widely accepted by younger people, so I want to know what we can do from this viewpoint of climate change. It's a very difficult question. It's a very difficult question to answer. So climate justice is that because the developed countries or industrial countries are responsible for the climate change through its consumption of the energy. And now the developing countries have to pay for that and also at the same time achieve their development. So there is a kind of a social disparity. So the socially weak countries, people have to face the issues. And for the people who is older than 20 years old, cause the issue, but the younger generation have to take the damage from that issues. So there's a kind of disparity between the ages, and these are the new issues. And as for the energy scenario 2050, I think there are many things you can do now. For example, you can go to the developing countries by themselves to promote the renewable energy there. And like the solar lantern was promoted by Japanese people in Africa. Or like Greta-san, you can participate in demonstration to appeal to the larger number of people. But what is most important is, like Greta-san, to think about new way or new approach toward the issue. And you have to create that new approach based on your own idea. That's what I expect on younger people. Thank you very much. Now, next I'd like to invite Mr. Taniguchi from Hokudo High School. I am Wataru Taniguchi, second grade student from Hokudo High School. The reason I participated in this program is that when I was an elementary school student, I studied the solar car and magnesium car. So I found it very interesting to use these two energies for the fuel for the cars, and I would contribute to solving the issues of the environmental issues. And when I was in junior high school, I had chances to learn the climate change, and I got more interested in these issues. And in high school, I wanted to learn more about these issues and know about the current situation. That's why I participated in the workshop. My question is that from the viewpoint of the solar power and magnesium car, about the vehicles which can run on these fuels, what eco-friendly energy or fuel for the cars or vehicles in the future you have? So now the electric vehicle is widely used, but still the battery is an issue. And the solution is now used in the battery, but now the development of the solid battery that is more safe and has higher energy efficiency. And as was introduced earlier, the idea to have the solar power generation panel on rooftop of the vehicles. And then you don't need to charge the car at the charging station. So this type of vehicle would be important. But before that, I want to tell you, Taniguchi-san, as for energy, example, there is an idea to use hydrogen as a fuel for vehicles, but sometimes the discussion is very tricky or confusing. So you have to learn physics and science, for example, including the preservation theory of the energy, or when they convert it into the heat or light and other. There are various efficiencies. You have to learn them. And for the economist, the energy is something which will be consumed. But in physics, energy is something to be stored. So when you use power and use smartphone and light vehicles, the energy is stored, and at a very low temperature energy, it is discharged into atmosphere. So the total amount of energy does not change. And I want you to learn these things. So before the new technologies appear, I'd like you to learn these and come up with your own idea. So there are many people who say that the hydrogen is very important, but you should not be deceived by the other people's theory. I think that is very important. Thank you very much.
Please introduce yourself, the Minori Hasegawa from Momoya High School. I'm Minori Hasegawa from Momoya Senior High School. The reason I'm participating in the program is that there was assignment to participate in the workshop. This is greatly related to our life, and I'd like to learn more. And not only the science point of view, from the ethic point of view can be learned in this workshop. So I want to know what's the connection between the environment and ethics, so it can be easy for us to participate not from the scientific background. And in this workshop, the climate change is not about the future, it's an imminent issue. And the societal system must be changed dramatically. So I want to ask Mr. Tsuchiya, by taking countermeasures on the climate change, there's any disadvantage for government and company? If so, I want to know detail, because knowing the disadvantage for counter climate change and know the solution and know more effective measures. And the reason that haven't proceeded is that there are some disadvantages for government and businesses. But while during this program, knowing the necessity of the countermeasures is embedded, and that cannot create an image that the countermeasures will be a disadvantage. So this is my question. For disadvantage, demerit rather than actually proceeding this measure, by doing so, some people lose job or some people cause damage. For example, oil and coal and industries, or steel, oil chemical industry, like heavy industries, working people. These person will cause damage. Japan as well, in 1970s, produce 20 million tons of coal every year. But in 1950s, shifted from coal to oil. The huge energy shift occurred. So the coal to dig mines to dig the coal had a big strike, and the government, to push that switch, provide a lot of subsidies. So that may happen in the future. However, businesses, according to the business specialist, for 30, the same industry can remain in last 30 to 40 years. In any company, depending on the situation, have to change their structure flexibly so that they can continue the business for a long time. So the people working in such an industry will going into a new renewable energy job or energy saving job. There many businesses can be created in the future, so shift their job in such an industry is important. So the government to support these people to have less damage. I'd like to ask Mr. Yatsuhashi, Shuba Yatsuhashi, the Murasaki no High School. Please introduce yourself. I am Shuba Yatsuhashi from Murasaki no High School. The reason I joined this workshop is that in internet and news, I like to learn the correct information about the climate change, and I like to have the opportunity to know about detail. And I'd like to ask you that how you come out the word energy cultivating civilization, and What can we do to promote the renewable natural energy? Thank you. That's how I come up this word. I don't clearly remember. I read a lot of documents and papers. And there is a paper written by King Hubbard from looking from a long time point of view. The time that Japan people can use the oil is just a one-time instance, like a kind of for a long time needle. It's called the King Hubbard's energy needle. After I read this paper, so oil and coal can be used only a short period of time. And at that time, oil shock in 1973, I thought that natural energy should be used to create it more. But from a long-time point of view, the only way is to create a renewable energy. So it may take 100 years. And I calculated and estimated notebooks. Actually, in this past 40 years, we have reached to such level, and that will surprise unexpected me, because the damage of the global warming is imminent than we expected and became greater. As I mentioned about the cost of generating solar energy and wind energy has been decreasing. And the reason I could say it confident is that when I talked with the executive of automotive industry, he mentioned that the renewable energy can be the 1 kilogram per cent, 1,000 yen. For cars, 2 kilograms for 2,000 yen. When this thing is created in a mass production, and they can repeat it, learn how to create more easily. So the PV now it costs 150,000 yen, and it will be reduced to 50,000 yen. It will be the same cost as the air conditioners. So I didn't change my mind. So that's why I'm here. Thank you very much. Today, I'd like to introduce the other high school students who could not participate today. And please look at the screen. Mr. Tsuya, could you answer some of these questions? From questions from Ikeno-san, what kind is environmentally friendly item, both currently useful and will be useful in the future? When it is ordinary to install a solar panel on the roof, but the energy saving for users, there are many things like electric refrigerators or TV. Select the energy saving type and purchase the EV instead of use the cars, walk, or use bicycle, or turn off the TV when you leave the house. Turning off the TV, purchase the outlet to have a switch. Just removing the plug is difficult, but just turn off the switch is easy. Or the one that always turning on. There are many electric devices that is not using, but it's turned on always, like this waiting electric, standby electric. If you have interested, please check the meter of the standby mode. In the Sunday morning, the electricity is consumed even if you're not using any electric items. Thinking how to use electricity is important. Like boiling the water, should we use the microwave oven or gas? Is such an example. Probably most emit same CO2. But if the electricity using renewable energy, it would be energy better to use the microwave oven rather than using the gas heater. So the thinking how to use the energy-saving item is good. And the question from Oka, how do you think about the battery charge? And this is to resolve the unstable energy supply is that arranging the supply or demand is useful. The company supply energy based on the weather forecast, or it's called the electric furnace to create steel. In Kyushu, Kyushu Electric Power Company checked the weather forecast company to operate the electric furnace when they are going to be sunny. Like a battery, they have a water pumping battery. Battery is going to be discharged more because using electric vehicle for some years it's going to be a used one, but some electric equipment can be used, and this battery can be used, and this will be a big business. So such kind of a system will be used as electric storage. In recent years, the interesting one is that the large concrete block can be up down by elevators and store battery and discharge like kind of a gravity like storage. So there are many ideas and devices we can do, and I would like you to challenge. And the final one, Yoshioka's question is that why the Japanese renewable energy share is low is because the responsibility of the Japanese government, because the Japanese government shows some policy, and many people will start to take action. For example, in business, develop renewable energy and launch the project. But this will not be approved by the executive because the government hasn't said it is important, and this idea will be rejected. But if government said we will go in that direction, the engineers and the companies can be picked up. Then the Japanese government should have to take initiative, take action. This April, the 6th basic plan, by 2030, the renewable energy resources should be doubled. And this, so I hope that this situation will be increased. Thank you very much. And finally, I'd like to, the floor is yours. I'd like to have a question from the attendees. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Please tell your name and question, please. Hello, I'm Hirata from Hokuryo High School, second high school. I have a quite different from you. Suppose if Mr. Tsuchiya is a high school student like me, what kind of action would you take? Well, how I should do? Well, I'm not have been participated in the street rallies, and I don't like that. Probably I will read books and think what I should do. And I took a lot of patents and inventions, and I really enjoy doing to create a new thing. And as I introduce the renewable energy related things, if I generate idea, I like to make a new things, new devices. Thank you very much. This is a very card-like question. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask you one more question from the audience.
今日はね、土屋先生も難しいお話ばかりされるのかなと思ったんですが、
We
面白いお話を
expect
私たちまで分か
Dr.
る
Tsuchiya make it a very difficult lecture, but I found him delivering a very interesting lecture and presentation. Anybody with any question? How about the student on the stage? Please. So what I learned through the workshop was something very new to me and new to us. And for the younger people to know more about climate change, what can we do? So you already studied a lot. So from what you have learned, please choose what you want to deepen your understanding or find out the actions you want to take and try them little by little. I said that the cost of solar power generation was announced every year, and I accumulated the data for 8 years. And in that way, to pursue one theme for quite a long time would be nice. Thank you very much. Today, Dr. Tsuchiya is very busy. So after this talk session, he will participate in the panel discussion. So thank you very much, everybody on the stage. Thanks, students on the stage. Thank you very much for your participation. Now, please take a seat in the arena. And this concludes the talk session. And we will have panel discussion from now. So please wait for the stage to be ready.
この後のパネルディスカッションでは日英の同時通訳を導入しております。会場入り口でレシーバーをお配りしておりますので、ぜひご利用ください。チャンネル1が日本語、チャンネル2が英語です。またお帰りの際はレシーバーをご返却いただきますようよろしくお願いいたします。
Now we start the panel discussion. The theme of the panel discussion is Vision for a Low-Carbon Society, Targeting Net Zero Emissions. And we have Dr. Tsuchiya as a panelist. And now let me introduce you the other panelists. First of all, the new inductee, Dr. Tsuchiya. Next, Mr. Marty Pomfret, President of Japan branch of Patagonia International. Ms. Miyake Kaori, Co-Representative of the Japan Leaders Partnership, Executive Officer in charge of Environmental and Social Initiatives at Ion Company Limited. And Dr. Hamanaka Hironori, Chair of ICLEI Japan, Senior Advisor of the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. And Dr. Hamanaka is participating online. And we have Professor Kenichi Abe from Research Institute for Humanity and Nature as our coordinator for the panel discussion. Now, Professor Abe, microphone is yours. Everybody, high school students from Kyoto Prefecture, we wanted to listen to their talk with Dr. Tsuchiya, but the time is very limited. Actually, we have only 1 hour for the panel discussion. So without ado, I'd like to go into the panel discussion. So, Dr. Hamanaka, are you ready for the discussion? Yes, I can hear you clearly, so let's start. So, first of all, now the panelists were introduced. I would like to have the 3 panelists to make their self-introduction and introduce us what activities you have been doing. Each one has about 5 minutes. So Marty-san will be the first speaker. Marty-san has a great command of Japanese, but he wants to speak in English today. So he will speak in English today.
First, thank you so much for inviting me to join today's panel. I have a little presentation I was going to show. Here we go. To give you some personal background, this is my second time to live in Japan. I first came as a graduate student in 1994 at ICU, and it's so nice to come back at a different stage in my life. I love the outdoors and wild places, and I trace this connection back to living in Alaska for the first 4 years of my life. These days, surfing is my passion, and the ocean is where I go to recharge. I've been a Patagonia customer for over 25 years, and Yvon Chouinard, our founder, has always been my business hero. So when I joined Patagonia Japan over 2 years ago as GM, it was a dream come true for me. I never got to work with Chris Tompkins directly when she was CEO of Patagonia, but my respect for her runs very deep. This is a picture of Doug and Chris on the 15 million acres of wild land they protected, more than any individuals in history. And I've heard Chris refer to this act as paying their rent for living on the planet, but the scale of their donation is staggering. Doug unfortunately passed away in a kayak accident in 2015, but Chris made their shared dream a reality in 2017 with the establishment of Patagonia National Park. Chris was one of our first Patagonia employees, and this is a picture of her testing product in 1973. She has been instrumental in building our company, but also our culture of responsible business, and remains a very influential board member today. Speaking of our history, this is a picture from Yvon Chouinard's original business in 1966, Chouinard Equipment. Yvon was an avid climber still. Yvon initially fueled his climbing habit by making his own climbing equipment. And this iconic tin shed still stands at our Ventura headquarters for Patagonia today. At our soul, Patagonia is an activist outdoor company. And we feel that our activism is most effective when our sports communities are at the center of it. And we see an existential threat like the climate crisis firsthand. For example, shorter winters with less snow are immediately obvious to skiers and snowboarders. But as a business, we've got to continually take a hard look in the mirror because we're part of the problem. And with that in mind, that sense of urgency in mind, 2 years ago, we changed our mission statement to "We're in business to save our home planet." And this is a recent quote from our CEO, Ryan Gellert, basically to reemphasize the reality that our time to address the climate crisis is simply running out. For real change to happen, the stark reality is for climate change demands system change, and carbon neutral is not enough. 95% of our emissions at Patagonia come from our supply chain, most of which from material manufacturing. But we've got a math problem. We can reduce emissions, but we can't eliminate them entirely. And our feeling is that purchasing offsets to get to carbon neutral doesn't erase the footprint that we create. So to address our reality, we're focusing on 3 areas to reduce our carbon footprint. First, we're going to get oil out of our clothes, and we're going to end the use of virgin petroleum fibers by 2025. Second, we're going to make products based on environmental profit and loss. And third, we are going to help our suppliers cut their own emissions. But we've also got to amplify our activism in every country where we do business. For Patagonia, Japan specifically, pushing to phase out coal-fired power generation is a big focus for us. We're also working very closely with our partner NGOs, along with citizens, local governments, local businesses, together with our sports communities to address local climate issues. We're committed to taking responsibility for our clothes and maximizing the life of our clothes, this is from our War and Wear recently in Shibuya. We're also investing in scalable solutions like regenerative organic agriculture and solar sharing, because we want to push for the transformation of agriculture. And we're going to continue to work directly with the youth of Japan through initiatives like our Climate Activism School to give young activists the tools they need to make real change and real impact. And we'll partner with all of our communities to push for climate policy change in Japan through basically a citizen-led democracy. And I'll leave you with one quote, because this is a really important quote to me. There is no business to be done on a dead planet, and this is something I think about every day. So thank you very much. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much. I have some questions to you, but I limit to only one. So Chris-san, you never worked with Chris-san in the past, but in a company named Patagonia, the philosophy of Chris-san, what specific philosophy is most deeply accepted by the members or employees of Patagonia?
Basically, I want to confirm the question. I worked with Chris. I see her at board meetings sometimes, but I don't work with her directly, only at board meetings. But you want some examples let me double check the question.
So what philosophy of Chris-san is most deeply accepted by the members of the Patagonia? Did you catch it? Can you hear the translation? So what philosophy among the employees of the Patagonia, what philosophy or idea of Chris-san or Dag-san is deeply rooted or accepted by the employees of Patagonia? That's my question.
Yeah, it's not working, but...
Hello, this is the English translation. Can you hear me? Okay. So the question is that among the employees of Patagonia, what philosophy or what idea of Chris-san and Dag is most deeply rooted?
Okay. So, sorry, that's too much to understand. Well, I think that I'll use one example. You know, we refer to responsible business. You hear a lot of discussion about sustainable business, but as you know, for an apparel company, we believe there's really no thing as sustainable apparel. So we try to be as responsible as possible. So I think that culture of responsible business is what we look for in people. We're also an activist organization. So, you know, you look at what Chris has done. She basically, she and her husband single-handedly preserved 15 million acres. So it's a question of action. I think less talk, more action is kind of the Patagonia way. We really don't like to talk about doing things. We like to do them. So that's kind of what we look for in our employees. And Chris was she basically helped build that culture.
はい、ありがとうございます。続いて。
Thank you very much. So next is Miyake-san.
Thank you very much. I'm the JCLG Japan Climate Leaders Partnership and co-representative of executive officers in Iran. Please show the slide. This is the JCLP's member companies. At the high school talk session for businesses, is there any demerit for businesses? It's a very interesting question, I thought. And everything has a disadvantage, demerit, like make a business decision. But I always say that compare the advantage, disadvantage, which one is bigger. For climate issue, taking action has a lot of advantage and merits. So if it is not possible, the companies that cannot do will be left behind. That is my answer. Thankfully, it's over 200 companies that member. Starting from 2012, the member country has increased dramatically. What we are doing is, as Mr. Tsuchiya mentioned, he said that the government is bad. And without the big goal of the central government, businesses want to take action, but businesses have to know which direction should make. So sharing the big goal is important. So the business, we have to understand what kind of ambitious action that the lawmakers could make or the governments could make. And our organizations are approaching and push the government. So one company, rather than group companies or group members, will make changes. So what our company, our ION, are doing, I like to skip the introduction of ION Group because all of you know we have expanding our business globally. For us, the decarbonization is as it shows that at the beginning, as a business, ION Prevent Global Warming Statement issued in 2008. And you set a numerical target and how much CO2 can be emitted. We mentioned it is the first company to set out as a government based on Kyoto Protocol. In wake of Kyoto Protocol, so we as a businesses set out set a goal. It was in 2008, and then we revised the goal every 10 or something years, and finally in 2018 we created the decarbon vision, and CO2 should be neutral. This shows the changes. I'll skip the details. As Mr. Tsuchiya mentioned, how much we can save energy. Also, it is important to use renewable energy, but reduce the usage is important. So we have been investing heavily in such a direction, and we are making a shopping center that use energy more efficiency. However, we are also generate electricity as well. There are a lot of solar panels. I don't like the design, but it was opened in 2008. ION Mall in Zama, there are solar panels all over the world. Even though it will cover total electricity of 20% or less annually. Therefore, how much we reduce the total energy consumption is important. There are room for technology development. So of course, there are solar panel PVs on the roof and the wall. It is not enough, so we use the adjacent land. And this is also in the talk of the Tsuchiya-san's talk. We are not implement the PV like cutting the trees or digging the land, but there are many vacant lands next to the Aeon store. It's a solar carport. We have a big parking lot in this store, so we installed a solar carport in our parking lot. So we are not cutting the land or mountains. There are many spaces for Japan to install solar panels. But of course, our company are making an effort, but most important is how we can involve our customers to change their lifestyle, like increase the EV charging spot, or people change the car to EV cars. So far, this is the experimental demonstration experiment. And customers' roof generated power can be charged to their EVs. Sometimes it would generate too much electricity. EV is like a big battery charger. So by driving that car and come to Aeon, and customer can discharge that excess electricity. It will purchase to buy E1, and then customer use that 1 point to enjoy shopping. So the customer can use the excessive electricity to enjoy for shopping. That may exceed in the future. And like a renovation, as Tsuchiya-san mentioned, how much we can renovate the energy efficient house. And because Japan, compared to Western countries, these fields are lagged behind. So these fields, as a businesses, we can help it. This is a business opportunity. So both, it has a greater advantage rather than disadvantage. So including economic impact, I haven't prepared the slide. One more thing I'd like to tell you from changing from the lifestyle point of view. What will you eat is very important for global warming. For high school students, you don't talk about the food today, but the agricultural crop and the cows and horses that emitted global warming gases challenge is a big challenge now. Like 1/3 of the gas is coming from a food system, some people say. So how to change it in our lifestyle? So the business must think about it, but I would ask the consumer, each customer to think about it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Miyake-san, like the Tsuchiya said, you nodded that the Japanese government should do more, even though that business in a good meaning like a kind of a lobbyist and pushing the government. This is one of the ways to change us, because the new inductees, Mr. Vidal, the big achievement is that the COP20, the COP means the conference of the parties. It's the conference between the government, but non-governmental parties are involved and accepted this party as a conference. He made such a decision, and this, if you think about the future, it played a big role. So not saying that the government should, but about over 200 members you have. So of course, through the election, we can approach to each government, but other than that, is there anything you are doing? Well, yes, as this slide shows, we directly approach to the government. The photo was small. I go to the former Prime Minister Suga and Mr. Koizumi, former Minister of Environment, and Mr. Taro Kono, the Minister of Administrative Report, direct approach. And I'm a representative of JCLP. On the background, there are 200 companies. And I compiled their opinion and working as a lobbyist to push the government during the past year. So during the election, it's difficult for the environmental issue to be a consistent point. How do you feel? Yes. For Japanese companies may lose, I strongly push to the lawmakers that surprised them, because if the business cannot tackle the climate change, and it cannot make a deal with the foreign companies, and it will be business damage for Japanese businesses. So the Japanese business will be lose globally, and that will have a great impact to the lawmakers. Thank you very much. So Hamanaka-san, thank you for waiting. From an ICLEI point of view, as from a group of municipal government, please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm Hamanaka. Today, thank you very much for inviting today's panel discussion. I'm attending from remote only. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. Please go to the next page. I'm from 2005. I'm director of the ICLEI Japan. Previously, from 2007 for 20 years, I was in IGES board of directors, and from 2004 to 10 years, I was instructor of Keio University and researching and educating about the global environment. In 2014, and I was working as the environment in the Ministry of Environment, agent of environment, and also negotiated and implementation of the Kyoto Protocol and sustainable development. And please, next slide, please. And today, from my side, I'd like to talk about the effort about ICLEI, collaboration with municipal government. ICLEI means the network of regional government committed to sustainable and urban development. The aiming for sustainable development consists of 2,500 countries, a global network. It was started in New York City. Over 200 municipal government participated. In ICLEI, as shows, has 5 paths to aim for sustainable government, sustainable cities. That means low or decarbonized development and recycle development and developed by nature, and for resilient development for natural disaster, and fair and human-oriented development. ICLEI held at the COP26 held in UK Glasgow, and the important national government, representative of the global municipal government, and working proactively. For net zero to achieve decarbonized society, municipal governments started to take action. And these are examples that advanced effort. This shows the Paris Agreement and COP26 adoption. The municipal government accelerate take action, and is going to be an important and necessary actor. And after that, to achieve the Paris Agreement, Taranoa Dialogue was implemented. The ambitious effort was shared, and that was shared worldwide. And I'd like to introduce some of the examples. Kyoto City and Nagano Prefecture, Yokohama City declared the 2050 net zero. Kyoto City in 2019 May, for the first time in Japan, the net zero 2050 to do so adopted the ordinance and to ask people to change the lifestyle to be net zero. Nagano Prefecture in 2017 held a global conference and with the participating municipal government to aim for declare the 100% renewable energy. And Yokohama City, the Finland, Turku City, we had said that the same ambitious goal, held a video competition for young youth. Finally, in UK Glasgow, COP26, the ICLEI and municipal government made an appeal, and this is an overview. In COP26 venue, Nagano, Kyoto City, and Kitakyushu City shared this advanced effort, and Toyama, Yokohama, with the Australia and China municipal government held a meeting, and to the Secretary of the United Nations, to the U.S. Prime Minister, there was opportunity to take the voice, and taking the action is necessary to achieve the goal of Paris Agreement. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Manaka-san, I have one question. Municipal government is going to be to take a leadership, and Glasgow, the agenda was focused on too much about how much we can reduce. But for the adaptation, even though the CO2 is reduced, the climate will change quickly. So build a sustainable, better society will be important. So I think the role of the municipal government will be big. What kind of adaptation measures is discussed in ICLEI or in COP26? If you may know, could you share that? Thank you very much. As insisted about the adaptation, it's a big issue, and we have been discussing in ICLEI. And COP26, this is a very important agenda, and the discussion is being discussed, is being made. In ICLEI, under the resilient city, the resilient is urban city, resilient to the natural disaster. A lot of municipal governments in the world are working on that idea, and efforts are sharing and proceed. And in Glasgow, of course, the vulnerable island or small countries or African countries, the support for adaptation, it should be increased drastically. So far, the focus has been made by the mitigation. The developed countries are focused on the supporting the mitigation, but we cannot wait anymore. The damage has already been proceeding, and that supporting for adaptation, it should be made quickly. So the municipal government had a lot of interest and working on adaptation. Thank you very much.
As you know, the Kyoto Prefecture, Kyoto City, and we have established the Kyoto Climate Change Countermeasure Center. And together with Kyoto Prefecture and Kyoto City, we'd like to think more about the adaptation. So in that sense, we'd like to have your cooperation and advice. from the panelists today. Yes, please. So I would like to have your kind of guidance and advice. So I'm sorry for this brief introduction, but as for the panel discussion, first of all, I would like to ask Dr. Tsuchiya to give his comments on the presentations made by the three panelists. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'd like to ask a very simple question to Marty-san. So outdoor industry in Japan, how do you see, or do you think of that outdoor industry in Japan? Do you have any collaboration with other industries, or do you have any special project as Patagonia in Japan? And my question to Miyake-san is that as Ion, do you have any work on the power utility companies? So, for example, about the coal thermal power generation or about the renewable energies. They are small companies which generate the renewable energies. And what relationship do you have with them?
Well, I think with starting with the outdoor industry, we do partner in some ways, but I think we've got to do more. We've kind of always, in the past, I think Patagonia has always tried to create scalable solutions first, and then show them where other companies can use them. I think we do that well, where we can say, hey, this is a way forward. And I think what we probably do the best as a company, though, is we try to create emotional stories to create action, and we do that through our films. But recently in Japan, what we're trying to do is work more on a community basis. Especially, I think a successful example was 2 years ago we worked with the city of Hakuba with an NGO, Protect Our Winters, and local high school students to get a climate emergency declared in Hakuba. And that was a great collaboration of the whole community of Hakuba, and it was really based on the fact that the winters are getting shorter, and that affects the community there because they make their business basically on snow. And when there's less snow, it affects resorts, affects the community, affects everybody. And so I felt that was a really good example of a success story that was, while it was small, it was a community effort, and it's something that other communities can look at and say, hey, we can do that too. Because sometimes you have to start really small and have one victory, and then take it from there in other places. So.
Thank you very much. So the work with the utility companies, pressure on the utility companies. Of course, we have conversation with the power generation operators, and everywhere throughout the nation we have the large-scale shopping center, and at each place we have business with the large-scale utility company when we have the long-term relationship with them. So as for the switch to the renewable energy, how they are going to switch to the renewable energy. This discussion has been taking place between us and them. And our expectation has been delivered to them. And in a case they do not respond to our expectation, what outcome will be. These things have been discussed with the utility companies. And as for the new power operators, we have the communication with them. And we do have business with them, partly. And as for the new operators, sometimes we have the issue of the capacity or volume available from them. So little by little, we introduce the power from the renewable energy operators. But at the same time, we'll work on the existing large-scale power generators so that they will change the mix of the power generation. And I think that will be beneficial for the overall society. Thank you very much for your answer. And Hamanaka-san and Tsuchiya-san. So the COP3 in Kyoto, where the Kyoto Protocol was signed, since then, you two have been involved in climate change. And do you see any good change or good tendency which you couldn't imagine at the time of the COP3? What good trend do you find in recent years? So for us, you are the great expert or witness from the history about the climate change. So to your eyes, if you have any new trend you find recently, I'd like to know about them. So the same question to Hamanaka-san and Tsuchiya-san. Thank you very much. So very important, but difficult question to answer. So what I keenly felt is that 24 years ago, here at Kyoto, the COP3 was held to adopt the Kyoto Protocol, and I was actually in that meeting. And at that time, as you may know, reduction obligation was only with the developed countries, and the level of reduction 6% for Japan, and 7% for US, and 8% for the EU. And discussion was how to reduce that amount. And discussion was on the who was in the easiest situation. And but we spent days and nights to discuss such level of reduction. And that was the start point for us. And after that, we went through the big change in society. Now the reduction level is 20, 30, 40%. And now recently, we see the zero emission or complete decarbonization is now being discussed to solve the issue. And we do not have much time to achieve that zero emission. So in the coming 20 or 30 years, we have to achieve that. And for that, the coming 10 years is very important. That sense of crisis is now gradually being widely accepted. I think that's the change we see in recent years. And as was mentioned by Ms. Miyake, including Japan, there are the business people who are very proactive against these issues, and also the financial institutions and investors who are taking active roles. So at Glasgow, the mayor of Kyoto City pointed out that effort will be made to contain the temperature rise under 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that idea was officially shared at the COP26, which is very important. And gradual decrease, not the elimination, but gradual decrease the use of coal was also agreed as a resolution of the COP26, which is very important and significant. But we have to see so that this will not just the words in agreement. So they have to be realized. So Japan has declared to achieve net zero in 2050. Including that point, the promises, declaration made by each country have to be carried out. And even when they are all carried out, the temperature rise will be 2.4 degrees Celsius. So to contain under 1.5 degrees Celsius rise requires further stronger actions and advance of the actions. So including the local governments, various entities have to strengthen activities, and that is what we have to appeal. So we have to have the sense of crisis, which is not shared. But as for the actual taking of actions, there are still some differences in opinions. Tsuchiya-san, same question to you. So the people from the Ministry of Environment or Ministry of Foreign Affairs are working hard. That's what I expect. In the past, when a politician became a minister of environment, there was no change in environmental policies. But recently, when the new ministry took office as a minister, the members of the Ministry of Environment gives lectures so the minister can understand the issue. And now we see the change in the minister's remarks. And I think that is a good thing. And I want to extend it furthermore. So, as for the increase of the use of renewable energy, or provision of renewable energy, I want the whole Japanese government and industry have to be more proactive, and so that we need to bring the change in the industrial structure of Japan. In 1960s, there was a plan to double the income of the general public. That was announced by one economist, and at that time, nobody believed in him. But in 1960s and in 1970s, it actually Japan actually achieved the high growth economically, which resulted in many issues. So here, there are the people who say that these targets are hard to achieve, but we have to have them switch their way of thinking and look back what we did in the past and promote the further change in the ideas and structures. Thank you very much. So we have to think about various things. So I'd like to continue to ask questions. So Marty-san and Miyake-san, so you two are from businesses, but your procedure is quite different. So in case of Patagonia, you are the outdoor company, so based on nature, so your stance is easier to understand, but sometimes you may face difficulties. But Miyake-san, Ion, your business is close to people's lives, so it seems that you have nothing to do with nature, but it's deeply related to nature. So Marty-san, my question to you, so the people's awareness about nature has been changing very greatly. So you were not born in Alaska, but spent your young days in Alaska, and you felt very familiar to the nature. But not everybody spent their lives in that way. But do you feel that people's are there any changes in people's awareness about nature? And my question to Miyake-san is that each individual's way of consumption has been changing, and what support or how do you work with each consumer in changing their lifestyle or way they consume? So first to Martin-san.
Well, I did live the first 4 years of my life in Alaska, but after we moved away, my dad and I used to come back probably every summer for about 2 weeks. My dad's a little bit strange in that he's a surgeon, he's a doctor, but he would love to have been like a mountain man because he just likes to go rafting and mountain climbing, and you know, he's always going for wild places. So I was exposed to you know, some very wild places at a very early age. And I think that one thing I saw in my lifetime is, you know, in Alaska specifically, is when I have gone back, just the glaciers, you know, how much they've melted. It's shocking. When you're a kid and you see it, and then when you come back as an adult and it's changed that much in a span of less than 40 years, it makes you think. And I think that also living in an Eskimo village, first couple of years of my life, those are the communities that are getting most affected by climate change. It's the poor communities that that are on the edges and are around the water, and I think that awareness is changing. I think businesses are starting to see that to some degree, but it's more citizen-led. I think businesses, in some cases are a bit slow, but I do have hope that some of the momentum that I'm seeing, particularly from youth, I feel like a youth has the most to lose, the most to gain. So I always say, within our company, you've got to take action, and I think we're kind of an action-oriented company, but we're losing ecosystems. And we lose ecosystems, we lose our future, And I look at it as like, okay, if you had a problem that's in front of you, you know it's a problem you got to deal with, you don't put it off. You know, it's like if you're gonna pay a bigger bill later, pay the bill now. You know, make the change now. And I think that business should be harder now. It should be. If companies, you know, are going to go through a phase where they have to fundamentally change, they may be less profitable. They may have, you know, but companies have to lead. You know, I think you know, politicians tend to be a little bit later than the businesses, and so that's where I feel like businesses have to lead first and say, okay, we're gonna have more difficult business, because if we don't, there won't be any nature. And I have seen that. I've been too close to it, and it concerns me. So that's kind of, you know, we're happy that there's a little bit more momentum that we're seeing in other companies, and so we'll keep trying to push where we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about Ms. Miyake regarding the lifestyle? Finally, in conclusion, that government set the ambitious goal and how much the businesses can follow and how the businesses can stay industry structure, and that kind of talk happens a lot. But the last goal is that services, production, and the consumers must select, and the business cannot earn and survive. The final decision is in consumers. I mean the retail industry, very close to customers. This is the company I'm in, so I especially think so. So the final decision is up to the consumers. And what kind of lifestyle they enjoy, what kind of car they'll drive, and what will eat, and what clothes they wear, and what kind of house they live in, how they consumers select. Each of consumer select, and that will lead to decarbonized society. Of course, that at the beginning, businesses have to make effort, and we will continue our effort. Especially, I would like to ask the youth, young people, to think. I think it's changing, because the young people have understand better than the adults and select what the things they purchase. When they select the product, they select the things that are good for the environment. And the keyword said today that speed is important. Well, some questions, some students asked what they can do. I would ask, change your parents. You don't have to change every adult, but you have to check how the parents consume and receive services and made comments. I have a daughter with 22 years old. When my daughter is high school student 4 or 5 years ago, we talked that topic, and I was said by my daughter, our food will change, life will change. My daughter started talk, I want to eat meat because how much CO2 will be emitted by meat. Do you know about that? She said. And that will be a daily talk. And if that starts, Japan will change drastically. And then the businesses should follow. Thank you very much. The fourth inductee, Mr. Emily B. Robbins, I was surprised that he was young. I think that he was the fourth inductee. The same fourth inductee, Ms. Bandanashima from India, she said that consumers, let's stop use the word consumers, because consume will impact production. We have to change the name to co-producers instead of consumers. That's a word Miyake talks reminds that talk. And I would ask a high school student, and what kind of question have you made to Tsuchiya-san, and what answer that Tsuchiya-san answered, and please share to your parents. Hamanaka-san said about the mitigation, the global cooperation would be important. So the climate change framework is to be being focused on the national interest, while each government think about the richness of each own country, but collaborate together is necessary for global environment preservation. And I'd like to talk about the global cooperation, but I don't have so much time. And just in 1 minute, is there anything we have to do in the global cooperation, starting from Hanaka, please? Yes, as mentioned, the global cooperation is very crucial because collaboration is each country is important, but not only that, that each players, actors, like collaboration with the municipal governments or the businesses globally, and for citizens, youth, that actors across the border and collaborate each other, and these will be increasingly important. And for ICLEI, as municipal government, across the border of the municipal government, rather that the experiences and effort of each overseas government to learn and use what we learned, and we will propose to the national government. These are important. So like a multi-layered action, global collaboration. Is that what I'd like to emphasize? Thank you. Well, I said the global cooperation, but it's like not just collaboration with a government, but each citizen across the border collaboration is important. So the Patagonia and Eon, they already have been connecting with the citizens in worldwide. Could you comment in 1 minute about your collaboration, starting from Martin-san, please?
I mean, our collaboration, well, first I'll talk locally. You know, I really feel like we're most effective. We're a smaller company. We're also a foreign company. So we try to approach our activities in Japan a little bit different from our activities in the US, you know, because that's our home. We're a visitor here. So we're trying to work as closely as possible with mayors and local communities, because we feel like a community-led effort that actually has an economic solution is a good way for us to be involved. When it comes to young activists, we try to be the wind in the sails. They're the boat, we're like the wind. But we do a lot of collaboration with other subsidiaries. Like I talk to the GMs of Australia, Korea, South America, Chile, Argentina, every week. And we try to share ideas. And we also, within communities, with local communities, I try to speak to as many other companies as I can, because again, we're smaller, but if we can help collaborate with a bigger company, then we can make real change. So.
ありがとうございました。三宅さん。
はい。Miyake, please. I'm not sure this is a global cooperation. It's businesses cannot ignore the global supply chain. It is intertwined. That's how business are going. So again, the global cooperation or the border of each government has been lowered. it's like a kind of intertwined global society and think about the whole Earth. Otherwise, the supply chain would not exist and work on. So we shouldn't say like a big word like a global corporation. And I think that's what the business is not thinking about such a big name, global corporation. Tsuchiya-san, not only that one country or collaborate each country, not like a global, is like a kind of a cooperation between each government. Is there any collaboration with citizens? There are many collaboration with researchers like U.S. and we exchange information always. Like we don't have a concrete project like businesses are doing. These haven't made fruit. In 1990s, there are many projects related to United Nations, but that number has reduced. So I have nothing to talk. Finally, I'd like to send a message to all of the panelists, to young people. So time has come. So today, many high school students attended here. I want to send some short message, simple message to young people, about 40 minutes per person, please. Starting from Mr. Hamanaka, and then Ms. Miyake, Martin-san, and finally Mr. Tsuchiya, please. And starting from Hamanaka-san, please. Yes. As Abe-san mentioned about the key importance of collaboration, so for the avoid the climate crisis, especially the young people, to support the future generation, the collaborations with young people will be crucial. I did instructed from each panelist today to avoid the climate crisis seriously. The industrial structure has to change into the decarbonized system. This will be a big challenge. Toward that goal, every partners and every actor's power should be collected. So the young people, I would ask, we also want to make effort, but also need your support. Thank you very much. And Miyake-san, please. Yes, as I mentioned, already sent a message to young people, no more than that. So please go to your home and talk to your mother and father, grandpa and grandmother, uncle, aunts, and adults close to you and talk about the environment. Thank you.
My message to you for Japan is simple. You're powerful. As customers, you have the power to demand for businesses to do better. As citizens, you have the power to demand policy change from your government. Greta's already shown you how much power one person can hold. By her words and actions, she's become one of the most influential people in the world. Trust yourself and act. Everything that you love now and everything that you will love in the future is at stake. And you have the most to lose and the most to gain. So push us to do better. Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。それでは最後です。土屋さん。
Please. And for the high school students about the climate change, you have learned a lot of things and widely. And the next thing after you learned, and select the important point you can do and thoroughly pursue. I expect you for utmost effort. Thank you very much. The time is up. I became aged to be pessimistic and said 2050 is really that achievable. But in the second abductees and Ms. Peregeles, the second is Ms. Elinor Osles, send out the word, be optimistic, they said. Some people think it's difficult and it's possible, but with will, it can be possible. So as with inviting Mr. Tsuchiya, and we had a panel discussion, I thought it's possible, it can be possible, I think. So these are, I like to three panelists and the new inductees that send you a strong panelist. And please say hello to Ms. Chris, Ms. Martin-san, including today's inductees. I'd like to express gratitude, and I'd like to close the panel discussion today. Thank you very much for today. Thank you very much for precious discussion. Mr. Abe, the coordinator, and the panelists, please give them a big applause. And panelists, please leave from podium. Like to close Kyoto Environmental Forum International Symposium. For questionnaire, please put it into the questionnaire box. And for people watching on the online, thank you very much for watching today. In the YouTube overview and for the website, there is a web questionnaire forum format. I would ask you to submit the questionnaire. For the symposium and for the recorded video, it will be uploaded on the Earth of Fame website. And from the website, the video message from high school students and for elementary school students, thought and research and express challenge sheet is also uploaded. I would take your time to look at it. People who I would like to share this information to people who could not participated. Please return the simultaneous interpretation receiver to out of the venue. And people who received the name holder, please return them as well. Thank you very much for participating today. Please be careful on your way home.